You ever wonder why some women seem to leave a man completely hooked without even trying, like he just can't stop thinking about her even when she's not around? It's not about looking perfect or saying all the right things. It's something deeper, something felt, and once you understand what really sparks that kind of desire in a man, everything changes. Let's break down the 6 things that most powerfully stir a man's sexual desire. And trust me, it's not what most people assume. There's something deeply magnetic about a woman who knows how to see a man beyond his surface. You might think what arouses a man the most is physical appearance, the curve of a hip, the length of a leg, or the shape of her lips. And yes, those things spark attention. But what holds his desire, what makes him feel a primal hunger for you that's not just physical but deeply emotional, is feeling emotionally understood. When a woman has the rare ability to read a man's emotional language, to pick up on what's unspoken, to see the parts of him he doesn't often show the world, that's where desire lives. Most men move through life wearing armor. They've been taught to keep things in, to be the strong one, to not show weakness. But inside, there's a deep craving to be seen, to be known. When a woman comes along who isn't just listening to his words, but hearing his silences, who can sense when something's off and respond with calm curiosity instead of pressure or judgment, she becomes unforgettable. There's arousal in that safety. There's eroticism in emotional intelligence. When a man is talking about something that happened at work and you gently sense he's feeling inadequate or defeated, and you respond not by solving it, not by lecturing him, but simply by being present and allowing him to feel accepted in that moment, you tap into his core. That acceptance, that understanding makes him feel naked in front of you without having to take off his clothes. And for a man, that kind of vulnerability is rare. It's raw, and it's intensely attractive. Suddenly, you're not just a woman he wants to be around, you're a woman he wants to touch, to explore, to devour. Because you've awakened something in him he often forgets he needs. Emotional attunement creates connection. And connection is the fuel of long-lasting desire. When he feels like he doesn't have to perform for you, when he doesn't have to be the alpha or impress you every second to win your approval, he relaxes. And in that relaxation, his guard drops, his need for intimacy rises, he begins to associate you with freedom, with being more himself, with not having to be anything other than exactly who he is. That space, created by emotional understanding, is where the deepest sexual chemistry lives. Not in surface level attraction, but in the silent emotional exchange between two people who feel each other without needing to explain everything. That's the kind of desire that doesn't fade after the lights go out. It lingers, it grows, it becomes something that's no longer just physical, it becomes soulful. And once a man experiences that, he never forgets you. Confidence has a unique frequency. It can't be faked and it can't be copied. When a woman walks into a room fully at ease with herself, something shifts. Not because she's the most physically striking or the loudest presence, but because there's a quiet authority in the way she holds herself. A man's desire is deeply stirred by this kind of presence. It's the subtle confidence in the way she makes eye contact without flinching, the way she laughs without apology, the way she moves like she belongs wherever she is. She isn't looking around for approval, she is the approval. That energy alone can create instant attraction, because men aren't drawn to perfection, they're drawn to the comfort and tension that come from a woman who owns her imperfections without shrinking from them. When a woman is in love with who she is, not in an arrogant, showy way, but in a warm, embodied way, it gives a man permission to be drawn in without trying to dominate or impress. A lot of women underestimate the erotic power of self-acceptance. Confidence doesn't mean being the loudest in the room or acting like nothing bothers you. It's knowing your insecurities and not letting them control you. It's walking through life without constantly explaining yourself. When you talk about your passions without worrying if he's interested, when you speak your mind without overthinking every word, when you allow your quirks to exist without trying to make them more palatable, you come across as someone who lives life on her own terms. That's magnetic. It ignites something primal in a man, not just the instinct to chase, but the instinct to respect. And respect is the root of real desire. A woman who doesn't need validation becomes a mystery, and men are intensely aroused by mystery. Not in a manipulative sense, but in the way she doesn't give away all of herself just to be liked. A confident woman is often the one who turns heads without even trying, because confidence is not about the dress or the makeup. It's about the internal permission she's given herself to be seen. That unshakable sense of worth creates a kind of inner stillness, and that stillness is what draws a man in. It makes him curious. It makes him feel like he's in the presence of someone who knows her value, and that makes her body, her words, her gaze, everything about her more charged, more meaningful. Desire comes alive not when she's begging for it, but when she's embodying the kind of self-love that doesn't demand anything from him, yet invites everything. That's what keeps a man up at night, not wondering if she's available, but wondering how he can get closer to the fire she carries without losing himself in it. Confidence, in its most sensual form, is the gateway to irresistible chemistry. There's something undeniably electric about the space between what's obvious and what's just out of reach. Playful mystery creates a kind of tension that goes far deeper than physical attraction. It taps into curiosity, imagination, and longing. Men are not aroused by what's handed to them on a silver platter. They're aroused by the anticipation of what might be, the slow unfolding of someone who isn't in a rush to be fully known. A woman who knows how to play with that space between what she reveals and what she holds back has an almost hypnotic effect. It's not about games, it's about creating an experience. It's the difference between someone who gives you a taste and someone who serves the whole meal too fast. The taste lingers, it haunts. It becomes something you chase in your mind long after the moment is over. The way a woman teases, not with cheap tactics but with subtle cues, can awaken a man's deepest desires. It's the pause before she answers a question, the glance that holds just a second too long, the smile that seems to say there's more going on beneath the surface. She knows how to keep a man wondering, not confused or frustrated, but intrigued. There's an energy that flows from her that says, I'm interested, but I won't make it easy for you. That alone lights something up inside of him. Because the truth is, men are wired to respond to challenge, not resistance for the sake of control, but the kind of challenge that says, I know my worth, and you're going to enjoy discovering it piece by piece. A man feels more alive when he's in pursuit, not of a person who's unavailable, but of a woman who doesn't rush to hand over every part of herself. That slow burn creates intensity, and intensity is unforgettable. The tease isn't just about sex, it's about her presence. It's in the way she walks, the way she brushes her hair behind her ear, the way she lets silence sit between them instead of always filling it. That restraint, that confidence in her ability to hold the moment pulls a man in. It builds emotional tension, which quickly transforms into physical desire. And when that desire finally gets to land, when he finally gets to touch what he's only imagined, to explore what he's only guessed at, it's not just satisfying, it's euphoric, because it came with meaning, it came with a journey. Playful mystery isn't about being distant or cold, It's about being present while still keeping parts of yourself sacred. It's about enjoying the game without rushing to the ending. That kind of energy isn't just sexy, it's addictive. A woman who lives in that space becomes the kind of memory that lingers in a man's mind when everything else fades. Because it wasn't just what she gave, it was how she made him feel every second leading up to it. There's a powerful kind of intimacy that's created when a woman allows herself to be open, not in a dramatic or performative way, but in a way that feels real, grounded, and brave. Vulnerability is magnetic because it shows depth. It tells a man that beneath the surface there's a real person with feelings, hopes, fears, and flaws. And that kind of truth is rare. But what makes it truly arousing isn't just the openness itself. It's when that vulnerability exists without desperation. When a woman can express what she feels without expecting a man to fix it. When she can be soft without collapsing into neediness. That's when desire truly comes alive. Because he doesn't feel burdened by her emotion. He feels invited into it. He feels trusted, and trust for a man is one of the deepest turn-ons. Most people confuse vulnerability with weakness, but real vulnerability is strength. It's saying, here's who I am, without the mask, and being completely okay whether someone approves or not. That confidence beneath the softness is what changes everything. It's the difference between a woman saying, I need you to make me feel better, and her saying, I want to share this with you, but I'll be okay either way. That small shift creates a huge emotional opening. It makes a man feel like he can be himself around her too. And when a man feels safe, when he feels like he can drop the armor he wears all day, his physical desire becomes deeper. It's not just about pleasure anymore. It becomes about connection. Men are taught to be strong, stoic, in control. So when they're with someone who's in touch with her feelings but not ruled by them, it's like stepping into a different world. A woman who expresses her emotions without apology but also without losing herself becomes unforgettable. She becomes someone he associates with truth, with warmth, with presence, and that emotional space is where real intimacy thrives. When she can say things like, I felt hurt by that, or this matters to me, without spiraling or blaming, she commands both respect and closeness. And from that closeness, physical desire grows naturally. It's not about saying everything or oversharing. It's about knowing when to open the door just enough that he sees there's something real inside, something human and raw and beautiful. That glimpse is what hooks him. He sees that she's not playing a role. She's not trying to be perfect or perform a version of herself she thinks he'll like. She's just being her. And that realness, especially in a world that's full of filters and facades, is intoxicating. A woman who can be vulnerable without expecting someone to save her is a woman who knows her worth. She invites closeness without demanding it. She holds space without losing herself in someone else's reactions. And that balance, that emotional richness, creates a level of sexual energy that isn't just about bodies. It's about souls reaching for each other, not out of emptiness, but from a place of wholeness. There's a kind of electricity that doesn't come from words, it comes from presence. A man can hear 1,000 compliments, get texts full of emojis and clever lines, and still feel nothing. But then he locks eyes with someone who doesn't say a word, and something shifts in his body. That shift isn't logical, it's energetic. Flirtation at its most powerful doesn't rely on pickup lines or practiced routines. It lives in the spaces between words, in the pause before a reply, the way your hand moves when you speak, the subtle shift in your posture when he walks into the room. A woman who knows how to play with that space creates a kind of silent invitation. and men feel it in their gut. It's the way you lean in just slightly, the way your eyes linger for half a second longer than expected, the rhythm of your voice when you speak to him like he's the only one in the room. That energy is unforgettable because it bypasses the mind and goes straight to the senses. Men respond to signals they don't even consciously register. It's not just about how someone looks, it's about how she makes him feel in her presence. When a woman radiates ease, warmth, and curiosity without being overly available, it triggers something powerful. It's not about performing, it's about allowing her natural energy to flow freely without constantly managing how she's perceived. When she feels good in her own body, she becomes irresistible without even trying. That energy is contagious. It pulls a man in without pressure. It makes him want to lean closer, ask questions, stay longer. And it's not because she said something amazing. It's because being around her feels good, even if he can't explain why. Flirtation through energy is subtle and layered. It's in the way you touch his arm for just a second too long, or the way you tilt your head when he's speaking, signaling that you're truly paying attention. It's in the balance of showing interest while still holding something back, making him work a little to figure out what you're thinking. That uncertainty is exciting. It sparks imagination, and desire lives in imagination. When everything is too obvious, the chase dies. But when a man senses that there's more to you than he's currently getting, and he has to earn his way into those deeper layers, his interest intensifies. That energy builds slowly, but it's the kind of fire that lasts. What arouses a man isn't just visual, it's visceral. It's how he feels when you walk away. It's the energy that lingers in a room after you've left. It's the unspoken tension that makes his pulse quicken without him even understanding why. That's the power of flirtation through energy. It's not about trying harder, it's about being more present, more alive, more tuned in to the moment than to the outcome. And when you can tap into that space, you create a spark that doesn't just light up the moment, it stays with him long after. There's something ancient and undeniable in the way a man responds to challenge. It's built into his wiring. Not a combative challenge or a cold, hard-to-get routine, but the kind that awakens his drive to step up, lean in, and pursue. A woman who knows how to invite that side of him brings out his most passionate energy. She becomes the reason he wants to show up stronger, not because she demands it, but because she makes it worth it. When she values herself so deeply that she doesn't need him but chooses him with discernment, it creates a tension that lights up his desire. She's not impressed by surface level charm. She's watching to see if he has the substance to keep up with the life she's building. And that awareness alone makes her intoxicating. A man feels most aroused when his masculine energy is activated, when he senses a space where he can rise, protect, provide, pursue. But this doesn't mean a woman has to be submissive or passive. Quite the opposite. The most powerful dynamic happens when she's standing tall in her own confidence, with high standards, clear boundaries, and a heart that's open but not reckless. She makes him work, not to win her over for a night, but to earn her respect and attention over time. And that process creates a kind of sexual tension that's rare, because it's not just about physical chemistry, it's about psychological engagement. He's not just chasing a body, he's drawn to a woman who won't shrink herself to be chosen. That kind of challenge sharpens his focus. It makes him feel alive. It calls him out of passivity and into intention. When he knows he can't just slide into her life without effort, when he knows she notices how he shows up, he starts to tap into a deeper version of himself. And with that effort comes emotionally invested. When a man is emotionally invested, his desire goes far beyond the surface. He wants to touch her, yes, but more than that. He wants to be accepted by her, and that creates an erotic connection that lasts. She becomes the woman he dreams about because being with her feels like achieving something real, not a conquest, but a connection earned. This is where many people get it wrong. They think making it easy keeps a man around, but real men, grounded men, stay where they feel called into something greater. When a woman doesn't bend over backwards to be chosen, but instead filters who she lets into her world, she naturally draws in men who respect her. She becomes a mirror, reflecting to him whether or not he's really showing up. And when he does show up, when he meets her standards with presence, effort, and real care, the intimacy that follows is unmatched. Because it's not just about chemistry anymore, it's about two people who see and choose each other without rushing. A woman like that doesn't just inspire lust, she ignites longing. And once a man feels that, there's no going back. When you understand what truly arouses a man, you realize it's not just about appearance, seduction, or saying the right words. It's about the way you make him feel in your presence. It's the emotional connection, the subtle energy, the confidence you carry, the way you value yourself enough not to give everything away all at once. A man's deepest desire is awakened not just through his body, but through his mind and heart. He craves a woman who is comfortable in her skin, who plays in the mystery without fear, who can be vulnerable without being dependent, who flirts with energy instead of effort, and who challenges him in a way that invites him to rise, not just to win her, but to deserve her. These 6 traits don't just arouse his body, they capture his imagination, his attention, and his loyalty. Because in a world full of noise, a woman who understands these things stands out. Not for how much she gives, but for how powerfully she shows up as herself. And that is what makes her unforgettable.